To a lifetime neurotic, it's like ice cream. I gotta have a little taste of everything. And being a therapist is like working in Howard Johnson's, or these days like Ben & Jerry's. If there's a new flavor, I gotta try it. And it's the same when I read DSM-4. If I see anything I've never had, I give it a try. I guess I'm compulsively neurotic. Like the other day, an enormously successful stockbroker, a young patient of mine, comes to me and he tells me he had a fight with his wife over a peanut and he stopped talking to her for a month. I'm telling you, his whole vacation, 4 weeks, he never said a word to her. I said, Malcolm, not a single word. I grunted a couple of times. He told me somewhat shamefaced. What happened? The moment we got back to the city, I started talking to her as if nothing ever happened. I had to control myself. I almost said, wow, out loud to me. Not talking for a month seemed, well, how shall I say, unspeakable? Now, I know I'm not a man, and men have a particular talent for being emotionally withholding, but still, a month of total silence? I had to give it a try. So, that weekend, I decided to stop talking to my boyfriend, Paul. I waited for him to do something trivial and insignificant. He dropped his fork, and I said in mock anger, you always drop your goddamn fork. Actually, it was the first time he had dropped a fork in 7 years. I'm the one who was always dropping things, but this was a scientific experiment. I said, you always drop your goddamn fork, and I stopped talking. It's an hour later. He's still picking on the chicken bones, looking 100% unperturbed. I, of course, I'm ready to explode. Finally, he turns to me and says, how long aren't you going to talk to me for? Well, I give him my dirtiest, I ain't going to fall for that old trick look, and I turn away. It's 2 hours later. He's watching a football game, occasionally brushing away the smoke that's coming out of my ears, still completely unperturbed. Finally, I say to him, don't you care that I'm not talking to you? But you are talking to me, he says calmly. You see, Paul is not compulsively neurotic. Some people have to be crazy. That's me. And it's not genes. It's not chemical imbalance. It's not a eating disorder. It's not menopause. It's a style of life. So I tell him it was a scientific experiment, and he says he was happy to help. I'm a good therapist. I care about my patients, but not too much. Too much, they told us in social work school, was a bad thing. Countertransference is some big word. But I have my own technique for not liking my patients too much. They all remind me of me, and I can't stand me, so I keep my distance. In general, it seems to me, my craziness is my best therapeutic tool. It's not just that I can empathize, it's that I can be crazier than they are. I've actually overheard several of my clients talking about me in the waiting room. Ellen V. said to Janet W., Marion's crazy. She makes you and me look normal. Marion's the most mad therapist on the West Side. Made me feel so good. What I've always done in therapy is exchange crazy stories with my clients. You know, Uncle Morris stories, but other family members also. Suddenly, everybody starts calling me a narrative therapist. Finally, there's a classification for what I did. Yeah, now I'm a narrative therapist. And I know there are sophisticated writings on the theoretical features of narrative therapy, but I haven't studied them. In case you haven't noticed, I'm not very theoretical, but I tell a good story, and I listen good to a story. My friends told me, Marion, for your first presentation at the American Psychological Association, you should have put together a more formal case study. But my clients aren't cases, and I don't study them. I figure I'm the nutcase. I'll present me any way I want. Maybe it's not scientific enough, but at least it's crazy. Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. That was magnificent. Well, Dr. Newman,
Yes, dear.
what moved you to do this? So it's great. Marion, you were wonderful.
Thank you.
What moved me to do it?
Yes.
Well, there were too many case studies presented at the American Psychological Association. There are, in my opinion, there are too many efforts to try to dissect what a human being is and introduce technical language and to make the to pretend that psychotherapy is a profoundly technical scientific form, et cetera, and so forth. And I don't believe that that's how come it works. I believe it works because some human beings are able to relate who they are in their lives and their neuroses and their problems and their pain in good kinds of ways to other people who need to talk about those things and share them with someone else who's sympathetic and understanding, and someone who's like Marion, and I think that that's how it all works. And a lot of people say that, but you say that, and but then you go up to the formal meetings up in Boston or wherever, and now you have to look formal.
Dissect. Right.
You have to act like, well, I'm really very distinguished. I know all the terms. I've read DSM-4 backwards and forwards, and I use those techniques and so on. And it has nothing to do with what goes on in helping another human being. And so there's this, this whole thing now called performance therapy and performance approaches. And what it is, it's an effort to introduce more performatory pedagogy into the APA, which is one of the stuffiest, dullest institutions this side of all the other stuffy institutions and so on. And so we started to do some people have started to do some work like this, and Ken Gergen, who's a leading American psychologist, has helped to put some of this together, and I was invited, over the last 5 years, and invited to write a number of pieces, of little plays, little skits, comics, and this is one of them, and Marion delivers it absolutely beautifully. And I think it does make a very, very nice statement, though, about, to me at least, about a whole lot of what's most important about how come therapy works. And at the same time, it's kind of a critique of not only the ways that, because most people who do good therapy, and many, many people do, and they do wonderful work, I think they do something which is their own version of what Marion's doing here, but they can't allow themselves to present it that way at